Hey, what day is today? Today is Thursday, November, didn't pay attention. I think it's the 6th, 2019. And I have something different to do today for you. And I'd kind of like to get some feedback on what you'd like me to do. One possibility is to read a little bit from 28 Years to Nowhere. I'm sorry, it's so hard to turn when everything's backwards. An Inspirational Tragedy is the subtitle. I thought I'd read, I had picked out a couple passages of scripture to read, but I thought instead of doing that, I thought I might read from this book, Larry's book, Under Attack, How the Tea Party Can Fight Back and Win. He wrote this in 2014 for the Tea Party. That was quite a movement back then, and I think that's how Jim Jordan got elected, and I'm not sure, but I think maybe Matt Gaetz and Devin Nunes came in under the Tea Party. I'm not real sure. So I thought I'd read some of the beginning of this. How many of you would like to be with us and stay with us, I'm not sure, but I have to fill in for Larry. You heard him yesterday, how he's very, very ill again. And I'm really concerned. I am really concerned for Larry today. He tried to get home. He came home from the hospital this morning at 6, went back to work, which 6 o'clock is when he starts every day. He's been going till midnight. He had a problem last night, and they said he was just, well, he has a high fever, and I don't know what's causing that. But he's absolutely exhausted. He has been working from 6 in the morning till 11:30 at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Thursday last week, he started at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he didn't stop until after he was done with us on Friday afternoon. So this man is just, and then he's working all day, all weekend, 6 till 11:30, 6 to 2 a.m. A few hours of sleep with a man who's in his condition is a little unreasonable. So, folks, he got his first treatment this morning. When he's doing well, one treatment a day is enough, but he's not doing well today. He needs a second treatment. So he needs a minimum of $400. If anybody can send $1,000, that would be awesome. But just know he's been asked to do so many projects when whoever else is on the team gets one. And when he was asked to do a fourth project, he did at least put his foot down. Pat, I hope he makes it too. And definitely, folks, be praying for him. I am going to type in his PayPal address or PayPal account. His PayPal account is Nichols, Nichols live, LIVE at AOL.com. And if you have a computer, NicholsLive.com is the website, and there under the donate page there is a direct link to his PayPal account, NicholsLive at AOL.com. There is his mailing address. He cannot cash any checks. If you want to send a check, it has to come through my account here, because I have an account. He does not have a bank account. And I'm going to, I typed in the wrong thing. I should be able to get us live right now on my cell phone. We'll see if I'm blocked. I don't know. For some reason, I couldn't do anything yesterday. So I'm going to try typing in my cell phone number and see if it'll go through. 240-499-6729. So here I am with the cell phone. So I just hit send and we'll see if it comes through. It doesn't look like it's coming in. I see it on my phone in the live chat, but it's not showing up on StreamYard. So the phone number for my cell phone number, if you need any ideas on other ways to help get money to Larry, if you look in the description box straight under the video, look in there. There is my phone number, 240-499-6729. Larry desperately needs $400. If anybody can do five to 1,000, if he could get into the hyperbaric chamber, it would help a lot, I'm sure. We've had to do that a couple of times recently for him, and it makes a huge difference. But, at this point, he is worn out for the number of hours he's been working, and he's just been working so hard. Oh, Gloria, thank you so very, very much. I'm going to read a little bit in Larry's book, Under Attack. Oh, goodness, I can't. I'm so sorry. I am so not used to everything being backwards like this. The introduction. Those of us who are 50 years of age and older have seen changes in our lives that are major and frequent. Every day, we've seen an increasing loss of liberty, and we're repeatedly forced to endure more intrusions into our personal life. So when you think of this book having been written in 2014, think about what's changed and what hasn't since then. This handbook was designed to let you know that you're not alone in recognizing the numerous violations of our personal liberty by those in positions of power. It's also my sincere desire to arm you with some simple tools you must use and share with others. He's all about sharing with others, you know that. By understanding and employing these simple tools together, we can stop and reverse the systematic destruction of our country from within before it's too late. Now, he's been crying this for a very long time, but we are at the point where this is our last go-round. If we don't keep Trump in office because he is trying to help us, then we're done. We're done. If the Democrats get the White House, it's over. Because remember, he said, chances are, if somebody's voting for a Republican president, chances are they're going to just vote Republican ticket in many respects. And if they're voting for a Democrat president, a lot of them will just click Democrat and put Democrat congressmen and senators in office as well. So we have a greater chance of taking back the House if people vote for President Trump. As we cover what's happening in Washington, D.C., I will explain how both major parties have declared open warfare. Both major parties have declared open warfare against the Tea Party, including warfare against the remnants of what was Jerry Falwell's moral majority. Do you remember Jerry Falwell and his moral majority? The leaders of both major parties understand it was Jerry Falwell's morality-based group, committed conservative Christians, that successfully challenged the liberal movement of that day and swept Ronald Reagan into office. And it was the Reagan Revolution of the 80s that gave us hope that we could stop and reverse the liberal shift that had taken place with the federal government. Don, I don't know what happened with your post. Today, the level of hope no longer exists. Today, true conservatives are lost. We've seen how the leadership of the Republican Party in Washington has abandoned the ideals of the Reagan Revolution and has merged with the leftist leadership of the Democrat Party. Together, they control most of the political agenda in Washington, D.C. Collectively, they're waging open warfare against the Tea Party and any remnants of the moral majority. Presently, those of you in the Tea Party find yourselves virtually alone in pursuit of your goals. You recognize you are receiving no real support from the leadership of the Republican Party at the federal level. Instead of finding support from a political party that traditionally claimed to be of like mind, you now find that the Republican leadership has publicly announced their attempt to crush you and your fellow Tea Party members, despite having historically been valued as a vital and significant part of the conservative base of the Republican Party. I recognize and thoroughly understand the plight facing you and your fellow Tea Party warriors, as well as that of the moral conservative Christian soldiers. I understand your loss of hope and sense of frustration with those in power within the Republican Party, for I was in a similar position back in the 90s when the personal war between Bill Clinton and me began. At that point, I found myself aligned with what was known as the Christian moral majority, as well as those pioneering conservative talk radio. Then, as now, I was disappointed to learn at almost every turn the Republican leadership was uninterested in supporting my efforts to combat the Democratic Party's leftist political machinery. After repeated frustration with their lack of support, I concluded that in effect, we the people were being governed by only one party, and the two-party system was merely a mirage. So Larry's been saying this for almost 6 years now. Leroy, I'll address the win in Kentucky in a minute from something I heard today. Therefore, embrace the ideas outlined in this handbook and use the tools developed to pave the way for the impeachment of the most powerful person in the world at that time, Bill Clinton, the President of the United States. I intend to do my part to save my country, and I'll do everything in my power to reinstate God in his rightful place in our government. To accomplish this, I need an army, and you are it. As you finish this introduction and begin reading chapter 1, keep in mind the following quote: I call on every officer and man to live and act as becomes a Christian soldier, defending the dearest rights and liberties of our country. That was George Washington, the first president of the United States and the father of our nation. I heard, Tamara, that Sessions was supposed to announce, I don't know if it was today or very soon, maybe by the end of next week. Sessions is planning on running for Senate again to try and get his seat back. His seat is right now being held by Doug Jones, a Democrat who beat Roy Moore. There have been a lot of problems with Roy Moore in Alabama because of he's kind of a bombastic guy, and there are a lot of people. Although there are a lot of people that support him, there are also a lot of people who don't like him. So, wow, John, thank you for being here from the oil platform in the Gulf of Mexico. Larry is very, very ill today. You heard him last night, what he did in staying on. He knew, since we were doing some fundraising yesterday, that he really wanted to answer all your questions, and he overdid it. And you could hear that. He had a very high fever. He was in bad shape last night. I don't have details. You know, it's not my business. I don't pry, and I'm not privy to knowing what is, their family's privacy, except that I do know that, I think when we're supporting him, it's appropriate for you to know that he really is sick, and to try and explain the need. We will have a conference call immediately after. Well, we'll do it at the top of the hour after this program. And the conference call number, I can't type it in again because I can't type it in from my cell phone. The phone number is in the description box down below here. It's 712. That's 712-451-0725. 712-451-0725. You have to use an access code, and that is 492-215-pound. 412-215-pound. The relationship between the president and Sessions. Sessions was on the president's election team or election committee in some capacity, and even though he was a senator, and so he kept his senatorial status, and then Trump made him, I'm sure as a thank you, made him the head of the Department of Justice. Now, Sessions did a lot collecting information. As far as I know, he did a lot collecting information on the pedophilia issue, and there were a lot of pedophiles who were arrested under Sessions as leader of the DOJ. Yes, Chris, probably need to remind Larry about silver. I know last time he was really sick, we got him some silver salt. Yeah, I was talking about Roy Moore. He is a bit bombastic, very outspoken. Some people really don't like that. So I'm going to read another chapter in the book, and that's going to address some of that issue. In 2016, Chris, when we're talking about North Carolina, the Republican governor was there, and we told the Republican governor to keep voter ID, that the legislation in North Carolina voted for voter ID laws, and the governor signed it. And the Democratic AG, Attorney General for the North Carolinas, said that wasn't constitutional. And of course, being a Democrat, he wanted it thrown out. So he insisted that they go into court. Well, Rindy is not here, but if Rindy were here, you could, I don't remember if she was on the team at that point. We made phone call and phone call and phone call to the governor of North Carolina. And we said, do not go into the court system. Do not go into the federal court. They will overturn the voter ID law. It is a law that has been passed duly by the state House and state Senate. It was signed by the governor. It stands on use your state's rights, and it will stand. So that's what happened. They eliminated their voter ID law, and that has allowed a lot of voter fraud. And as you said, there's one county that's really, really bad. Sessions had to recuse himself from the investigation with the Russian collusion thing, because the investigation was of Trump's election team, and he was part of that. He can't investigate himself, so he had to recuse himself. Now, Trump was upset because he didn't realize if he had to recuse himself, he would have picked somebody else. And eventually, Sessions had to go. But yeah, like I just read in the introduction to Under Attack. So somebody asked a question about Kentucky. How can they get a Democrat governor? Well, remember Larry said yesterday, Matt Bevins, a lot of people didn't like some of the things he did, especially the education system. And the teachers union is very strong in the United States. And so the teachers were complaining about it. And that had an effect. And it's hard to understand how they could vote for a Democrat governor when they voted Republican for everything else. And I heard somebody this morning talking about Jefferson County, which, like Durham County in North Carolina, is mostly Democrat. But when you consider how many are registered to vote and how many actually voted, I think there's a discrepancy in the numbers. Of course, we are all very, very frustrated that the election team, Trump's election team, has not been effective yet in helping and getting things together for the election, but it takes time. You got to remember, government, anything in government is really, really, really slow. And we have a lot of worthless rhinos, Republican in name only, and they have done their dirty deeds. They don't want to be found out now, and they want communism to come in, because then they will be the ruling elite probably Larry said a year or two ago that probably what would happen is the senators would be the central committee of the communist government, and the House members, the representatives in the House, would probably go home to be the leaders of government at the state level, because everything will be federalized. We won't have state government anymore. So, okay, I don't see anything more. Tamara, you asked, I think it was Tamara who asked, where's Larry? He's very sick, and he was on phone calls today with whatever he was doing, working on the projects he's supposed to be doing. He's so sick that he's really having a hard time getting his brain to function properly. He can't think clearly. And so we've got, he's got a real problem and he needs help. So anybody who can send any more money to him would be greatly appreciated. Remember, his PayPal account is nicholslive@aol.com. That's in the description box straight underneath here. So I'm going to read chapter 1 as well of, let's get it turned around. Larry Nichols, Under Attack is the book. This is no longer in print. What is happening in Washington and how has it changed and why? For years in the political world, it was a belief that in order to get elected, candidates must offend the least number of people. And this is what we were talking about with Bevins and Roy Moore. Larry has this platitude: he who offends the least wins always. So it was not how many people you pleased. The victory went to the least offensive candidate. However, a new political tactic was used by the Clintons in Arkansas, and it has now permeated Washington, D.C. The new political tactic is polarization. Under polarization, the candidate selects a group to become a political target. The politically targeted group is repeatedly attacked to engender anger among the group members. However, unknown to the uninitiated, the primary purpose of the attack is not to anger the target, but to secure the support of the target's political enemies. You see that they are targeting conservatives. And they are getting very, very vocal, and there's even concern about whether they're going to get violent as well, because they're calling for death and destruction. Let me grab the bumper sticker, Terry, and I'll talk about it in a minute. Consequently, the targeted group and their political opponents become polarized, thus the term polarization. I've learned over the years that you can uncover the agenda of a given political party or political group simply by observing patterns in their behavior. Their behavior patterns offer clues to their final goal. However, what is confusing, at least on the surface, is the pattern of behavior by the Republican establishment to crush the Tea Party and the moral Christian majority that has been a consistently loyal constituency. Those who follow politics have observed this baffling phenomenon within the leadership of the Republican Party. Two prominent Republicans, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky and former U.S. Representative Steve LaTourette of Ohio, have openly declared their intent to raise millions of dollars for the sole purpose of destroying the Tea Party. However, members of the Tea Party have been an integral part of the Republican base, and it was instrumental in giving the Republicans control of the U.S. House of Representatives in the 2010 midterm elections. In addition, it is a powerful political force that could again help Republicans gain control of the U.S. Senate in the 2014 midterm elections as well. Unfortunately, we didn't have people following this last year. So how do we explain a pattern of behavior by the Republican leadership that is clearly detrimental to the Republican Party and obviously beneficial to the Democrat Party? The explanation is simple. There is something more important to the Republican leadership than the welfare of the Republican Party. That something is personal political power. They are placing their own political welfare far above the welfare of both the Republican Party and of the nation they claim to serve. It is becoming clear that the hierarchy of the old guard of the Republican Party feels so threatened they're willing to expose themselves as members of a political elite that is more closely aligned with the leadership of the Democrat Party. The Republicans are aligning with the leadership of the Democrat Party than with the base of the Republican Party itself. It was their fear that the 2014 elections may have ushered in enough Tea Party candidates and Tea Party supported candidates that they may have achieved enough power actually to redefine the Republican Party. Adopting the tactics of political polarization employed by the Democrats and by Bill Clinton, the Republican leadership has publicly targeted the Tea Party for destruction. And of course, under Obama, we had all kinds of problems with them being targeted through the IRS. By openly declaring war on the Tea Party, and of course nowadays when you talk about the Tea Party, you need to just talk about us as the conservative moral majority. Soon to be not majority anymore, the way things are going. By openly declaring war on the Tea Party, they have invited moderates and liberals from both major political parties to side with them in attacking and destroying the Tea Party or us, and their supporters as well. Yes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's a shrewd political move, but expose their true allegiance. For many decades, we've been led to believe that there are two major parties in Washington, D.C., one liberal and one conservative. Thank you, Chittum, for doing that. We all should be making calls. We'll talk about that in a minute. In fact, behind the scenes, there's only one party. Mitch McConnell, John McCain, John Boehner, and others are in Washington for one purpose: to acquire and maintain personal political power at the expense of the party and the expense of the nation, if necessary. And of course, we remember we've seen pictures of McCain with ISIS members. And who was the other person who is there right now that was in that picture with McCain and ISIS? I'm sorry, I'm hitting a blank right now. They show us the facade of two parties when necessary, but they show us the reality of one party when left with no choice. This newly exposed allegiance among the elite of both major parties helps to explain a phenomenon that has been a complaint of conservatives for many years. When establishment Republicans battle Democrats, they always seem to fight with one hand tied behind their backs. In contrast, when they battle conservative Republicans, establishment Republicans fight with both hands and both feet. If the current level of animosity directed toward the Tea Party had been directed toward Barack Obama prior to the 2008 presidential election, then Senator Obama would not have become President Obama. If the Republican leadership had exposed Barack Obama's true, sordid, long-standing relationship with the likes of Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dorn, who led the domestic communist terrorist organization known as the Weather Underground, today would be living under a very different America. There would be no Obamacare train wreck and cover-up, no deadly Fast and Furious scandal and cover-up, no fatal Benghazi scandal and cover-up, no IRS scandal and cover-up, no White House-directed immigration reform, and no repeated embarrassment on the international scene. Yes, the elite Republicans who want Ted Cruz out of the U.S. Senate are the same elite Republicans who helped Barack Obama plant his feet on top of the desk in the Oval Office. The elite of both parties are on the same team. In reality, there is only one party. We need to change that, folks. We've got to change it. This is what is happening in Washington, D.C. today. This is how it has changed and why it has changed. In effect, we the people are now governed by a single band of elitists in pursuit of the absolute, unchangeable power for themselves. For the first time in our history, our very form of government is changing right before our eyes. The Democrat Barack Obama is not the only politician in Washington who wants fundamentally to transform America. Oftentimes, he's doing it with the help of the Republican leadership. Why has the leadership of the Republican Party allowed Obama repeatedly to bypass Congress and legislate from the Oval Office. If the Republican Party was truly an opposition party, there would be real opposition to Obama's repeated lawlessness in sidestepping Congress. Instead of opposition, the Republican leadership routinely offers false hope to voters who want to see a genuine return to honest, lawful constitutional government at the federal level. Sadly, President Abraham Lincoln's government of the people, by the people, and for the people has been essentially malformed into government of the elite, by the elite, and for the elite. Time is short, but fortunately, it's not yet too late. The Tea Party must not only survive the onslaught wrought by the Republican leadership and its Democratic allies, but it must rise up and outsmart, outmaneuver, and defeat this elitist group. And that, my fellow patriots, is the purpose of this handbook. So if anybody else wants to go ahead and read more on this, Under Attack is on the website under blog. And we put up, let's see, I revised it, I think in 2017. Let me see if I wrote down when it was. I didn't write down when I revised it. So I edited the book, and you cannot get it on Amazon anymore. It's not available. So the only place to get it is on nicholslive.com under the blog. You may have to scroll down a ways to get it. It probably has the early chapters at the bottom and the later chapters. I don't know if Barb switched everything around so that it's in order. But it is there if you want to read the rest of it. And, you know, I'll read more of it next time. Thank you, Chidam, for voicing your frustration. We should all be calling the Republican senators. The script for doing that is on nicholslive.com. We did not put up the phone numbers for 53 members of Congress, but if you look here at Chidam's, the phone number he has put in here, oh, I can do that. That doesn't hinder my ability to type here on the computer. Doesn't have a 5 or a 6. 202-224-3121 is the main switchboard for Congress. And then they will ask if you want a senator or a House member representative. Call the Republican senators. You can get their names at senate.gov, and then you'll look under the list for senators, and then they will have a link at the top where it says filter, and you could search by party. And all the senators are listed, so the top ones are the Democrats, and then a couple independents, and then the Republicans at the bottom. When I started calling, I started from the bottom of the list. I know there have been others calling. And I know many of us have only Democrat senators. But remember what we said yesterday, what Larry said yesterday, we are affected by what the Senate does. It affects us nationally. And when they are making laws that affect everybody, when they are impeaching our president that we elected, they are going against our choice for president. That affects everybody in the nation, not just their constituency. Now, you shouldn't engage in conversation with them. You should just get on the phone, and when they answer, just start reading. And as soon as you're done reading, hang up so you can call back a second time later in the day. If you engage in conversation and they're really insisting and you want to talk to them about, you know, they want to know where you live and so on, you don't need to give your name. You don't need to tell them where you live. You just need to let them know that what they are doing affects the whole country, and therefore you have a right to have a voice in what they do. Doesn't matter whose senator they are. You know, I'm going to go with that, Rex. I appreciate what you said. A lot of our forebears have given the ultimate sacrifice to maintain our constitutional republic. What a disgrace, these stuffed suits in the Senate, that they won't step up to preserve the rule of law. And that's why Lindsey Graham stood with our president and got 47 senators to sign on with him that if this kangaroo court being done with all these committees looking into, instead of just the Judiciary Committee looking into crime, every other impeachment started with a crime. They don't have a crime. They're having these hearings to find a crime. They want him out so badly, they're using historical rules, not law, to run these committees. And they're not follow. There's no law. There's no crime done. They're doing what Mueller said. We have no way to prove him innocent. So they're looking for, they expect the president to prove his innocence. That's not what our Constitution tells us we have to do. We're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, which is what happened with Clinton, which is what was happening with Nixon. And he realized that he had done something wrong by not stopping the Watergate break-in, and by covering it up, that was wrong. So he resigned. But President Trump hasn't done anything wrong. But remember, they have set a trap for him that if his staff don't come in and testify, then he is now obstructing Congress, and that is breaking the law. So then they got their little gotcha. And Pelosi said that they're going to start the impeachment next Wednesday. The original plan had been just to drag this out and keep his name dragging through the mud until the election. But, they've got so many other tricks up their sleeves. They've got all these freebies that they're offering people. And who really takes the time to think about the fact that they're going to bankrupt the country with any one of their freebies? And there you've got AOC going, just print more money. Well, no, that's not how it works, because if the Federal Reserve prints more money, we have to borrow money to buy it from them and pay interest to use it. And of course, we never give the money back to them in repayment for the loan. So we just go deeper and deeper in debt every time they print money. Yes, we are getting very close to world governance. And so, Chris, what you were saying, you sent me the link to Lisa Haven's video today talking about the USMCA, United States, Mexico, and Canada. It's the trade agreement that replaced NAFTA. Many of us have had some concerns that, forgive me as I try to straighten my crooked glasses here. We've been concerned that USMCA doesn't do enough to preserve the United States sovereignty. And maybe, again, what Congress is now going to vote on, they're going to, work on this treaty supposedly in the House. And who knows what these Democrats are going to do to the USMCA, and whether they're going to put us back into so much that was under NAFTA that we wanted to get rid of. Thank God that President Trump got rid of the NAFTA treaty. And if they try to ratify USMCA, Lisa Haven was sounding the alarm that this is really going to compromise our sovereignty. And we need to be, we've gotten to the point, folks. Larry said, I always thought it was God, family, friends, church, government was down the list. And he convinced me that really your priorities should be God, country, even before family. Because if you don't put country before family, we'd have nobody willing to go to war to fight for our country. The Revolutionary War was fought by 3%. We know that our president is unaware of a lot of the details of a lot of things. He has committees that help him to select judges. He has committees that help him select. So much of what is done by committee, even, with his administration. And if they mislead him because of how many people are liberals and want the one world order and the global governance, we got a problem. As for the GMOs, I am concerned with you, Hazel, that our president, it seems to be giving more leniency to Monsanto and the GMOs. And I don't feel good about that at all. I don't feel good about what Bill Gates is doing in his promotion of the vaccines. I'm concerned about all that, but we have to be very careful how much we talk about right now that people don't know anything about. As Larry has tried to say, keep the main thing the main thing. When Trump has been brought back for a second term and he's in office, he will do something about the judges to help not have all these rigged courts. Now, there is the problem. Barr found out that if they called a grand jury, for example, for McCabe, 92% of the jurists, the members of the jury, would be liberals who support the deep state and support the Democrats. So if 92% are going to be that, how do we get a recommendation to prosecute? So, when we're upset that Barr isn't doing anything, when people are upset that Trump isn't doing anything, their hands are tied until Trump's second term. Now, the IG report coming out, timing, Larry fights very hard to remind people timing is everything, because as soon as you bring something important out, the media is going to have some other story that the Democrats are putting out that's going to bury what the Republicans want people to know and what the president wants people to know. And so you've got to be very careful about that. So right now they're talking about the transcripts from these private hearings where the Republicans weren't even allowed to be there, and now they're allowed to be there, but their questions have to be approved by in the Intel committee by Adam Schiff before they can even ask something. They're not allowed to take notes to prove that what Schiff is claiming is a transcription. There's no way to prove him false. So he can say anything he wants in these transcriptions. I mean, this rigged system is just unbelievable. And so we need to call our senators with the script that's at nicholslive.com. And it should be right. There is a whole section for scripts. So, it's basically, hello, I'm calling to let the senator know that if you impeach our president, I expect you not to hold the hearing. And if you are going to hold the hearing in the Senate, then I expect you to stand with our president and do not vote him out of office. He was duly elected. And if you're not going to vote and stand behind our president, then please know that I will do everything in my power, along with my family, my friends, everyone I talk to see that you never hold office again. Chris, if you've got an idea on that, you can either type it in here and I'll read it about a loophole to avoid a grand jury. They have looked into whether they can go to another venue, and that hasn't worked out yet. Trump has, isn't it true that Trump has put in more federal judges than any other president in history? But the problem is, when you're talking about government officials, you're talking about the New York court, the Virginia court, and the DC court, which are all rigged and liberal. And so, we've got a problem with going to court. Now, with the kind of things that you or I would go to court for, it's not a big deal as far as, the fact that things are rigged. We do have trouble if they find out what our party affiliation is and so on. We may get a harsher sentence thrown at us. But things are a little more normal for us than we could ever expect for people in DC that need to be held accountable. Now, don't forget, Larry has said proof has been given to Barr and Durham that Obama is actually the person that started the counterintelligence against President Trump. He ordered it. It's in writing. The email that he sent to Brennan and Clapper is Durham and Barr have. So please remember to pray for their safety. Pray for President Trump's safety. Pray for the safety of his family. Pray for Larry's safety. With all the things that he does. I mean, I'm not hearing about attempts on his life but once this year, but I don't know if he's just keeping it from me, so I don't know. Last year it was awful. They just came in waves and waves and waves and waves from all over the world, frankly. So we were asked a question about the, I'd have to hold it right side up, sorry. The Never Socialism bumper sticker. We have at least one person running for Congress who has this on their bumper. I can't remember if Joey Perkins in Oregon has this. Yes, Chris, Jay Sekulow is a Virginia court expert, but the Virginia courts are rigged, and Jay Sekulow has argued at the Supreme Court many times, and so he has taken some things to the Supreme Court for our president, on behalf of our president. And he's been very instrumental in those wins, as has Rudy Giuliani. I have with me today again the 28 Years to Nowhere, Larry's book, and Inspirational Tragedy. He said inspirational because he hopes you will learn from him and what he's done, and learn to speak up and fight for our country and work with us to keep our freedom. It's a tragedy because of what Larry lost in his fight against the Clintons when he turned against Bill. It was before he ran for the White House, but when Bill Clinton found out that when Larry found out that Bill Clinton wasn't just using cocaine, which was there in the governor's mansion all the time. He wasn't just using cocaine, but he was actually participating in the drug running through MENA. And, he doesn't know who ordered the killing of the two boys on the track. We did have an interview with somebody from Arkansas who's investigating that case again, who said there is a recording of Hillary ordering those boys to be killed. Larry apparently hasn't heard that, or at least he protects himself by not admitting to knowing that for sure. And yes, Terry, Roger Stone is in trouble with a rigged court. Jerome Carsey's case is a little different, so he probably is going to be able to get off. We don't know what's going to happen. Larry doesn't know what's going to happen with Roger Stone, and he is concerned for Roger. Obama will be held accountable. Part of holding him accountable is he will be held accountable in the court of public opinion. As for what can happen, remember, Larry has told us when somebody has a top secret security clearance at the highest levels, like Hillary Clinton did as head of the State Department. So any of these cabinet members and the president have such high clearance levels, they cannot be put in jail unless they are in solitary confinement, which is really, really, really hard on a person not to have any communication with anybody and just be alone. He does expect Brennan and Clapper will be put in isolation for 10 to 15 years, I think he said the other day. We'll see. It all depends on how rigged the court is, how rigged the jury is. And, getting a jury of peers becomes a real problem. For example, with Abel Danger, Field McConnell down in Broward County, how does he get a jury of peers down there when that's a rigged system there? I mean, thank God, was it Steve Israel was the sheriff down there, friend of Hillary Clinton and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. There's a lot of stuff that's come out of Broward County that is quite rigged. I'm getting dry. I have water here. Let's see. The other thing I was going to show you. Let's see if I can get this up here the right way today. Never Socialism. V is for victory. That's the little pocket size logo on the front, and then the bigger logo on the back. You can order it including the words Nichols Army, or you can leave Nichols Army off. That's your choice. They are listed in men's sizes. If you want a woman's size, you can get a women's size. If you need to, the women's sizes run a size small. So order a size larger than you need if you're ordering a woman's size. What I have is a men's size. If you need to order a woman's size, I don't think that's possible through the website. So give me a text message and I will get back in touch with you and put you in touch with the Mark who does the orders. Clinton hitmen. They had a saying called "kill them while they're young," and that saying has been taken to mean that there were murders done on behalf of the Clintons. That's not to say there weren't murders committed on behalf of the Clintons, but Fahmy Malek, the coroner, ruled everything a suicide that might have a connection and benefit the Clintons. So no, Larry has never said who the hitmen were. Now he has admitted, the one case he has admitted was Bill Clinton said that somebody who was in prison had raped his niece. And so they did castrate the guy in prison who supposedly had raped Bill's niece. Come to find out after that, Bill Clinton was the one who had raped his niece and was framing this guy in jail. And he is very, very upset about that. Chris, I don't know if there are any sweatshirts yet. Frankly, my dear, you need to stop with the lies. Yes, there was a problem on Pete Santilli's show. The show you're talking about, Pete Santilli took down. Somebody else captured it and has kept it up. It is a lie. Larry had just had surgery. He had called Pete Santilli's office because they wanted to do an interview with him, and Larry was calling while he was still under anesthesia. He's had so much medication in his life that it takes a lot to have an effect on him. And he had called to ask for it, to set up the timing of the interview. And the lady who answered the phone passed him to Pete. He did not know that the call was being recorded. And under anesthetic, he said some pretty crazy things. And his family was extremely upset about what he had said to Pete because they were there in the hospital room with him. And the only reason he got off was able to, not be he was able to get out from under their ire because he had been laughing just before he called Pete. Hey, isn't that silly? Look at Bill Clinton sitting over there on the table, the table that rolls around in the room and can come over the bed for your meals and so on. He said, look at Bill Clinton dancing on the table. And they knew he was out of his mind. He was just talking silly because of the medication he was under with the anesthetic. It hadn't completely worn off yet. So he got off the phone with Pete and fell asleep and has no memory he remembers making the call. He has no memory of what he said. And it was just nonsense. So frankly, my dear, don't mention it ever again here. Well, if Jason Goodman interviewed Pete Santilli, whatever, the truth of the matter is Larry was under anesthesia when he said those things. And if anybody is in the medical field, they will know that these kinds of things, it's pure craziness. And it's, he said crazy things, and he was not told that there was a recording being made. And so whatever he said on that fake recording should not be in public domain. Larry asked Pete Santilli to take it down. Pete took it down. Somebody else had captured it and put it back. Thank you, John. People coming off of anesthesia talk nonsense, and that is true. Exactly. So this is what happened to Larry, and that is the truth of the matter. And, you know, you can ask me questions about Larry, and I will tell you the truth about it for what I know. I don't pry into his business. I saw the stack of bills, $1 million worth of medical bills from, prior to when I met him, that was sitting right there on the kitchen table. Yes, I know it is still on YouTube. But it shouldn't be. And Larry had asked Pete to take it down, and it had been taken down. Now, who's put it back up? I have no idea. Maybe we need to call Pete again and tell him to take it back down if he's the one that has it up. Okay, that's, frankly, please don't do any more than that. You're effectively tongue-tying me. I was talking about Larry. He lives very, very humbly. He had been a very wealthy man. He gave up and lost everything in his fight against the Clintons. And the things that he did to set the record straight, when he came to Christ and had to admit and face himself and the things that he had done, he realized he was the lowest of the low, and he calls himself a scumbag. And one of the things I was actually going to do today, which we're not going to do now because it's time to be done. Yes, if Larry had done those kinds of things, he would have been arrested. He has not been arrested for any of the things he did with and for the Clintons. And they would love to assassinate him. They have tried too many times to count. I have seen the shotgun scars all over his chest. His chest looks like, he is not a freckled man, but his chest looks like Pippi Longstocking's freckles, because they just peppered him with a shotgun, and the shotgun just sprayed all over him right in front of family were outside with him, and it was a drive-by shooting. Frankly, stop it. Just stop the nonsense. And he has no reason to go to jail for what he has done. He has served our country very well on the battlefield with special ops, with things that he was asked to do. He served Bill Clinton and did what Bill Clinton wanted him to do. And when he realized, as soon as he realized, his line in the sand was drug running. And when he realized Bill was involved in the drug trafficking, that's when they split. And he has not had anything to do with the Clintons ever since, other than to fight them and try to bring them to justice. And so there are complications in getting these people taken care of, because the judicial system is rigged. So until the courts are changed and the president will be able to fire, thank you, Rindy, and the courts need to be, the federal judges will be replaced. And yes, it was Publius Forum, which is not Pete Santilli. So look, forget it. This is conspiracy theory, folks. We are arguing over conspiracy theory. Larry has asked us not to do that. Larry has asked us not to go into questions about Hillary and the sexual stuff, because if Larry knows about it, he is preserving his life by not talking about it. If he does not know about it, then he's not going to be able to answer what he doesn't know. And he doesn't answer what he doesn't know. If he doesn't have proof about it, he will only share what he has proof. So even the mafia avoids the drug trade. So that's an interesting thing. Okay. All right. So back to what we need to do for Larry. He needs at least $400 immediately, because he needs to get back over to the hospital and get some help. I don't know how quickly he goes over. I have no idea on his schedule. I know he is he's back and forth, and he never takes the same route twice, and he has to live looking over his shoulder all the time. And I think that is enough trouble to have had to live with for 30 years. What he did was over 30 years ago. And for somebody to come into this chat room bringing up old news is absolutely, it's wrong. It's wrong. And I don't appreciate it one bit. Are the Clintons still involved with drug running and border issues? I can't answer that. I have no way of knowing, and that's something Larry would have to answer. And I think his answer would be that since he's left, he doesn't know how much of that is being prosecuted. I kind of doubt. They go on law, and I know this drug running is illegal, but they go on what they have proof of that they can take into court that will stand. And they have one shot to go into court, so they have to have every I dotted and every T crossed. So thank you, Rindy. This is not a conspiracy forum, so don't bring up the conspiracy questions here, especially not for me, but not even for Larry, because he doesn't go into conspiracy. And if he has proof, then he will talk about the proof he has. And our focus now needs to be making sure our president does not get impeached and gets re-elected. Thank you, Chara and Luca. So that's it. If anybody has any ideas for helping us to have a more professional look with what's behind me, this is the best I can do right now, is this plain background of the brick wall. And I know it looks like I'm in my home, because I am. And I don't have a professional studio. I don't have the money for that. Larry doesn't have a studio. He doesn't have the money for that. Anytime you have seen him on air, in video form, he's been sitting on his sofa in his living room, and possibly a chair. So if anybody has a way to make this look more professional, we'd appreciate it. But right now, the priority, unless you've got oodles of money that you want to help throw at this, the priority is to keep Larry alive and in the fight to stop the impeachment. And he's working, like I said, in his condition that you heard yesterday, for him to be working 12, 14, 16, 20 hours a day, or 24 hours a day even. That's just, how many of you would do anything near that? How many of you? As if you sick as if you were on a deathbed at that level of illness, and you're going to keep working and you're not going to quit no matter what? Come on now. I know that's not something even I would do. So I'm going to get on the conference call right now. So yes, we've been asked no more irrelevant questions. So let's keep the focus on what we're talking about at the time. I would have been happy to answer questions on why I edited Larry's book that is no longer in print, how it got on the website, 28 Years to Nowhere, why my name's on the cover, and so on. But that's for another time when Larry's not with us. If you want to ask questions like that, I'd be happy to answer. So Larry asked us not to ask the irrelevant questions. He very certainly did. And Clinton Foundation money involved in drug trafficking is not something I know anything about. So, folks, Larry desperately needs help. His PayPal account is Nichols Live at AOL.com, and the website is nicholslive.com. nicholslive.com. There's a link to his PayPal. There is his mailing address for cash only, and there is my cell phone number if you need to send money some other way. I've got some money that came in the mail this week that I need to take to the bank. So Yes, hit the like button. I don't care if you don't share today, but folks, do whatever you can. If you want to have something to share yesterday's show and ask people to please donate, listen to his voice and how hard he is working. And all right, I'm ready to get on the conference call. So this is it for now. Thanks. Hopefully Larry will be back with us tomorrow. God bless you. Bye.